We've got all sorts of guests that come by, and we were thrilled to snag Congressman Darrell Issa from California. It's so nice of you to come back. Appreciate that very much.
Well, it was great. Look, wherever 1 or 2 million people will listen, I will be there. But not only was it was fortuitous, but the fact that you'd take me when I snapped back from the other one.
It was perfect.
But, it's an exciting time to be in Cleveland, and I'm going to share something your listeners don't know. I was born here.
Were you really?
I was born about 4 miles from here. It wasn't the manger. It was just a little hospital. But and I grew up here, and I didn't leave here until my 17th birthday when I went in the Army. So this is sort of a homecoming. I have 3 living siblings here in Cleveland. I've gotten to see all of them and get home-cooked meals. So in addition to, nominating the next president of the United States, this has also been pretty neat. And as you notice, this is as good as Cleveland weather gets.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That thing you saw that was kind of strange above you, that was the sun.
Yeah, I know. You don't normally see that.
You don't see it in Cleveland.
Cleveland's also, the jokes is certainly back in the 70s. The river catches on fire once or twice, and it ruins your reputation. But this is actually a beautiful town.
It is a beautiful town, and it is a town with a rich history. It was incorporated before the state was a state. It was a great area for all the major ore and production. We always say we made more Ford engines here than Ford made in Detroit. The famous 351 Cleveland was made in plant here for many, many years, and it's still production. This is the home of auto, steel, and rubber. It's heavy industry. It's also part of what Donald Trump is talking about, revitalizing core industries, making it possible to do the hard stuff again. Because, I'm Silicon Valley and Telecom Valley. We do an awful lot with our heads. But the fact is, somebody still is going somewhere in the world going to make cars and trucks and buses and tractors. And it should be America making it. But the people of Cleveland, the people of Peoria aren't going to get to make them unless we get the government off their back.
Yeah, I was going to say, running the coal industry, virtually, that was Obama's stated goal, was to run them out of business, which is just unconscionable to me.
Well, what's amazing is he's perfectly happy to have us send coal to China so they can burn it dirty and it can come back over our atmosphere. But somehow the idea that very well cleaned up coal just can't be used. And, of course, it's plentiful, it's inexpensive, and it's part of what we leverage to succeed. I went to school at Kent State, just a few miles from here, and, my freshman economics teacher said there's only 3 things that create wealth: mining, manufacturing, and agriculture. And everything else just leeches off of that, except radio DJs.
Well, of course, yeah.
But the fact is, it was absolutely true. These are the core producers of wealth. And if you leave that alone, then you're going to have somebody else create wealth, and you're going to be the service industry. We don't have to be that. President Obama's disdain for heavy industry is a disdain for exactly what made America great and what still has to be part of our core competency.
But your point, Congressman, about these industries are still going to flourish. They're just going to flourish where there's no EPA, where they are actually, when we talk about pollution, and what they've done is they've conjoined smog and CO2 as if they're the same thing. There is no CO2 in smog. So what they've convinced the American public is, anytime you see smog over a city, that's global warming pollution. And they've been very brilliant about it. Al Gore's been brilliant about that. You see steam coming out of smokestacks, and they try to tell everybody that's smoke, and it's actually steam. So we've got to get back to somebody who can explain this to the American people, that we do have clean-burning coal. And if we do move the coal industry to China, as you said, that's real pollution, because they're not going to put smokestack scrubbers on their smokestacks like we are here in the United States.
Well, exactly. And that's where we need to export products, of course. But if you export a pound of coal, or you export the production from coal, you create a lot more American jobs. Look, I want to export our coal. I want to export it inside a car. I want to export it in other ways. Our natural gas, I don't mind selling liquefied natural gas, but I'd rather sell fertilizer and medicine and all the derivative products we get from that energy form. And I think Americans would rather do it. We want to make things again. So is this the greatest country on the face of the earth? Absolutely. Can we be greater? Absolutely. All we need is our government working with us, not against us.
Well, and that's been the problem over the last 8 years. Donald Trump, I think people, of course, see him as the businessman he is and the CEO. And they say he's a bit. That's what I hear from folks. Why do you like Donald Trump? He's a businessman. Now, you started off as a Rubio guy, right?
I did. I worked with Marco Rubio. He was very helpful in all of my investigations that are in our new book entitled Watchdog, that's on sale as we speak. It just came out.
I'll show this to the camera, as a matter of fact. There you go. What, it just came out?
It just came out. July 12th was its opening day. And basically what we say in Watchdog, we talk about the investigations. Marco Rubio was helpful in getting witnesses and standing up the administration. It took both the House and Senate to do what we did to expose wrongdoing. And it's going to take a president that cares enough about our country to allow real oversight if we're going to fix what's wrong.
Now, Rubio is, of course, you've pivoted, as they like to say in the media, to Trump. Rubio, not so much. He got his feelings hurt, didn't he?
Well, Marco is my candidate for Senate. He's running for re-election. He's already ahead in the polls. The people of Florida may not have voted for him for president. To a certain extent, his youthful appearance, something you enjoy, of course.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Absolutely worked against him.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, he's the same age as Cruz, but people didn't get it. So, does he have a bright future? Absolutely. Will he be a great senator? Yes. Will he be on a future ticket? I suspect so. He's a solid conservative. He's a great guy. He's more of a libertarian than a lot of members of Congress, and I like that. But he's also very solid on national security. He is, in his short time in Senate, he really has become a national security expert, and I'm going to be glad to have him back in that other body that I do work with.
What's your thought on Mike Pence?
Well, Mike was a classmate of mine, and in Congress we talk about when we came in. January 3rd, 2001, we were sworn in. We spent 17 days with President Clinton, and after that we served together for those 8 years of President Bush. That meant we were together on 9/11 when our country was attacked. We served on committees together. Mike was a stalwart. He showed up that evening when we sang at the base of the stairs of the Capitol to assure the American people that their Congress wasn't running, that we were united and we were going to overcome this terrible attack on our soil. So he's been tested in that way. He's traveled to those combat regions. He's met with the troops. He's voted for what worked and what didn't work. Absolutely. And he understands that war is not the only thing, but sometimes it's what you have as a tool of diplomacy. And so I think he's going to be great to have at the side of Donald Trump, letting him know a little of the history from an insider's view. The other thing is he is a solid conservative. Conservatives have no doubt that he will be their man in the White House. So I think that props up a lot of those who were concerned about Donald Trump as a conservative.
Because I think the way Donald Trump was looking at this pick was certainly foreign to a lot of political pundits, and they were thinking that Donald Trump is looking for somebody who can bring him this state or bring him that state or whatever. He was looking at the pick simply as a CEO who is going to fill in the places that I have deficiencies. Who has a reputation and a relationship with Congress? Who's had administrative experience and things like this? So, at the end of the day, Pence was probably a good pick.
Not only probably, he is a good pick because he's prepared to be president on day one. He could be the commander-in-chief of the United States, just as he's been the commander-in-chief in Indiana. Does he have an interesting background? Absolutely. He used to sit behind a microphone, just like you do.
I know, we won't hold that against him.
And he used to talk conservative talk on conservative radio. But he also rose quickly to be a leader in the House of Representatives. And I know you think that's a low bar, but it turns out with over 218 of us, you do have to get the other votes. And so he was a leader among members of Congress. He could be the president if he had to be on day one. And I would hope and I believe that was Donald Trump's first most important thing is I have to pick somebody who I trust that if something happens could take over that day because there's no second day.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this whole process play out. We're at the convention in Cleveland. Congressman Darrell Issa, appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.